Hey, I'm Liam O'Connor with CBC in Saskatoon. If you're new to This is Saskatchewan, awesome. Do us a favor and hit follow on your favorite podcast app. That way you'll know when a new episode drops. Okay, let's get at it.
Hello, I'm Lee Sugarbinsky. This is Saskatchewan. People love their animals, whether it's a snuggly snickerdoodle or an old mutt that likes to give kisses. Being a pet owner, though, is a privilege, and as such, it comes with some rules and responsibilities. When a dog acts aggressive, maybe it attacked someone or bit, how should that be dealt with? A string of dog attacks prompted the city of Regina to review its animal bylaw. But the process has been a bit bumpy, and it has some people worried that a ban on certain breeds could be on the horizon. The CBC's Aaliyah Marco Amene has been following the tracks, the paw prints, I'll say, on this story. Hi, Aaliyah.
Hi, Alicia.
So what prompted the city of Regina to review its animal bylaw?
Well, there have been a string of dog attacks in different parts of the city over the last couple of years.
Oh no, and how bad were they?
Let me tell you about one that happened in a Regina North End neighborhood of Rosemont this summer. A dog owner living on Cecil Crescent let his 3 large dogs roam free. Neighbors say they have been living in terror for more than a decade, including Angela McLean. I spoke with her outside of her home on the Crescent, and Angela told me she's had many encounters with the unleashed dogs since she moved in 6 years ago.
When you try to get to work and can't get to your own car, it's terrifying when you can't water your own garden without having pepper spray and a baseball bat. It's just been absolutely horrendous.
That's absolutely wild, Aaliyah.
Yes, I couldn't imagine having to go out to my garden and also carry, a baseball bat to ensure I'm not being attacked.
Yeah. So what else did Angela have to say?
Well, Angela says she's tried to work with her neighbor to find a solution. She wants the dogs leashed and told him that, but Angela says each time she brought it up, she was met with hostility. She says she made numerous calls to Regina Police and the Humane Society, but the attacks didn't stop. Angela has been jumped by the dogs in her backyard garden. She says her son has also been bit by one of the dogs in their yard.
So has this happened to other people in the neighborhood?
Yeah, actually, 2 doors down, Dennis Amon has lived there more than 3 decades, and he told me he hasn't felt safe in his neighborhood since the dogs have been around.
They actually charged me at my front door. I couldn't get out of my truck to unload lumber in my own yard. They had me pinned there. I had to call the animal control and the police to get them to get the dogs away so that I could get into my own house.
So what have they done to try and get this to stop?
Angela says that more and more people started to speak to her about their experiences with the dogs. And so she tried to start a petition to take legal action to protect families on the Crescent and hold the dog owner accountable. She collected more than 400 signatures in support. Dennis and Angela took that petition to Mayor Chad Bashinsky in August with the hope of prompting changes to the bylaw. They were also able to sit down with the mayor to share some of their story and to emphasize what it's like to live next to these dogs. Weeks later, the city of Regina announced its animal bylaw review survey.
Okay, so what is the city hoping to accomplish with this survey?
Well, it wants the public to weigh in. In September, the city released what it called Phase 1 of their animal bylaw review survey, which focuses specifically on aggressive dogs. The 12-question survey asked for feedback from Regina residents on a series of questions. One contentious question is about ways to reduce aggression in dogs, including reducing the number of animals one person can own and tethering a dog in its own backyard. Another question raises the idea of banning certain breeds. Shortly after the survey was posted by the city on Facebook, a number of people expressed their concerns with some of the questions. Some commenters say they're worried the city is hinting at the possibility of a breed ban. Mayor Chad Bashinsky addressed those worries days later.
I've met with some residents who have had some very, very severe incidents with dangerous dogs and animals. But I also, one statement that I have made, and I stand behind it, is that I don't believe banning dog breeds is an answer. I believe that it's holding owners responsible.
The mayor says a review of the animal bylaw is long overdue. This is actually the first full review the city has done since 2009.
Right. So for people, though, who are upset with the survey and with some of the questions in the survey, what did they end up doing?
A group of people who work in Regina's pet industry gathered for a consultation meeting with the city at Glencairn Rec Center to discuss aggressive dogs and the possibility of a breed ban. I wasn't allowed into the meeting, but I did speak with several people who attended the meeting. A group of us actually traveled to Prairie Exotics and Aquatics in Regina's industrial area, including dog shop owners, rescue volunteers, animal photographers, and dog trainers, like Kara Newkirk. She's a dog trainer with Fox Canine. I spoke to her as she faced her fears and held a snake, which became what she called a light bulb moment for her as she realized its loving nature, and it was very loving. She talked about how snakes are often seen as dangerous and aggressive animals, and Kara says the city's survey plays into that same stereotype with their idea of an aggressive dog.
I mean, even before I was a dog owner or a trainer, you think of an aggressive dog as being what you see in the movies, like they're foaming at the mouth, growling, snarling, and almost always pit bulls.
Kara told me the city should be focusing on providing proper education for dog owners to prevent aggressive behavior. Tanya Wild also joined us at the industrial area business after the meeting, and she owns a dog photography company. Wild told me that in more than a decade, she's never felt at risk working with rescue dogs.
And I have shot a lot of photos of Staffy-type dogs, Rottweilers, Shepherds, anything that has been, a subject of a breed ban. I do have trouble photographing them, I'll be completely honest, because they do not want to get off my lap or stop giving me kisses and hugs.
So really the general consensus to come out of the meeting was that any bylaw changes should target people's behavior and not punish animals. The owner of House of Paws echoed that same sentiment in a petition she launched earlier this month. Carly Patroluk is asking the city to pause the animal bylaw review altogether. She says in the petition that at the September meeting, it became clear that the process is being rushed without the time, resources, or collaboration needed to get it right. She emphasizes the need for the city to collaborate with people who understand animal behavior and welfare, including local veterinarians, trainers, rescues, and pet professionals. CBC also spoke to Barbara Lloyd because we wanted to understand what might make a dog aggressive. She is a dog behaviorist and certified trainer and mentor with the Dog's Den Training School in Regina. She explained why a dog might bite.
That's all depends on the reason why they're biting. Are they biting because they feel that they don't have another option? And that's the other thing. People don't know how to read dog. They don't know how to read what the dog is telling them. So it's all that some dogs have is their mouth. They feel like they've given all the other appropriate signals that another dog would have picked up on and said, okay, yeah, I get it. You're past your threshold here. But as people, oftentimes we think, this is a dog, I want it to do X, Y, or Z, so therefore it's going to do X, Y, or Z. And we corner them or we put them in situations that the dog would rather not be in, then it bites, and then we say, well, it bit me. Well, rightly so. But then you have other situations like what happened in the city where, I know that there was a gentleman that was out, like literally just out, viciously attacked him. Not only did those two dogs viciously attack him, they had also been involved in other attacks around the cathedral area. And there was a lot of talk. I don't live in the cathedral, but I know people who do. There was a lot of talk about these two dogs. Those two dogs, because of their actions and what they did and how they did it, now those dogs are definitely dogs that I would say they need to be euthanized because they have a history. They have a strong bite history. And the owners need to be held accountable as well. And I think that some owners, it does come as a genuine surprise and shock. But when it's like that, we need to really hold them accountable. And that's what we need to be looking at.
I find that really interesting, even just at the start there, Barbara, talking about how one doesn't necessarily know how to read the cues of a dog. And I think that would be me. I don't know how to react calmly if a dog was appearing aggressive towards me. So the survey, Aaliyah, is closed now, the phase 1 of the survey, right? So what exactly happens next?
So the city will now review the feedback and consider best practices from other cities before presenting phase 1 recommendations to council on November 12th. People have been extremely passionate. The city says over 12,000 people have taken the survey. The responses will be used to determine the focus of other phases to help the city review its bylaw. The city says it has received a lot of feedback around livestock and cats, so that may be what we could see next in their review. That's the situation in Regina right now. Leisha, you live in Saskatoon. What do you know about the animal bylaw there?
Yeah, good question. So Saskatoon's animal bylaw was actually updated in May of 2025, so just a few months ago. The city also has a separate bylaw to address dangerous animals, and that was last updated in December of 2023. So the dangerous animal bylaw is intended to ensure animals are treated well, to regulate and prohibit the keeping of dangerous animals within the city, and prohibit dog fighting. And there's a whole process, Aaliyah, to determine if an animal is dangerous. So if it's bitten or attacked a person without being provoked. And I want to be clear that nowhere in the two bylaws is there a breed ban, but there's a lot of specifics as to how they might investigate.
That's interesting. So are there any stories that come to mind from the last little while where there were concerns about an aggressive dog?
Well, yeah. I mean, as you were talking, Aaliyah, I was remembering how people in the Haltane neighborhood in Saskatoon were really on edge after a small dog was attacked. Susan O'Donnell was out for a nightly walk. This was in May with her little Pomeranian named Ryder, a very cute little dog. And she'd had that dog for 9 years. When they were approached at an intersection, a trio of pit bulls came at them both. And Aaliyah, the attack was brutal. Susan started screaming that the dogs were killing her dog. And that's when Nikita Rathwall heard all this from her window. And so she says she heard this and was not entirely surprised at the fact that this awful attack was happening.
This has happened before. It's happened actually multiple times. And, the owners have been warned, the landlord had been warned.
So what ended up happening?
Well, Susan's dog was horribly injured. A neighbor had come out, put a blanket over Ryder, and then he was taken to a vet and was just so severely injured that Susan had to make the difficult decision to euthanize him.
So I've been very traumatized and extremely emotional and lost without Ryder. He meant the world to me, and he was like a child to me.
So you can just hear how emotional she is, right? Nikita, the neighbor, said people on the block had been raising concerns about these three dogs.
I just couldn't imagine, what the owner went through. I have a little dog at home, and that would be heartbreaking. Did this spark any kind of wider conversation?
Well, in some ways it did. So people in the neighborhood had previously filed complaints with the Saskatoon Animal Control Agency, and Nikita Rathwell says nothing really came of those complaints. But then after this, they started another campaign called Justice for Ryder, but she said the process was slow. Another neighbor, Carol Clapwick, was also concerned about these attacks, and here's what she had to say.
I think we need to change the law for dangerous dogs, and you need to let animal control take charge and give them enough power to go and grab them right away.
So at the time, the owner of the three pit bulls did tell CBC that they were instructed to euthanize the dogs. Officials with the city said they could not comment on the case because it was under investigation. But I did reach out just a few days ago for an update and learned the owner of the three dogs was charged under the dangerous animal bylaw. The dogs were seized by animal control, but they're still waiting for a decision by a provincial court. So the question that all of this leaves me with is that question that I think is at the heart of some people's minds when they listen to these stories. Are some breeds of dogs more dangerous than others?
Barbara Lloyd says no.
It's not breed specific. It has nothing to do with any type of a specific breed. Breed bans have been proven not to work. And they don't work because the dogs that are biting are not a specific breed. It's not just one certain type of dog. I mean, truly, 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 two of the absolute most aggressive dogs I ever worked with in my whole entire career were chocolate labs. And they were extremely aggressive. And it wasn't, it was something, they weren't related. They were years apart as far as in my practice. But they were both biters. They both attacked owners and other people. And it was just something not firing in their brain. So then you look at, okay, so I know myself. So I've had these 2 chocolate labs that I had to work with, and both of them I had to recommend euthanasia for. And that's another thing I think that's an important part of this discussion is we can't shy away from the discussion around behavioral euthanasia. I think it's the most compassionate thing to do, because if you start looking at a dog who is biting people that are caring for it in a loving, compassionate way, how happy is this dog? What's their quality of life? And then if you need to keep it from biting people, what are the things that you need to do in order to keep people safe from that dog? Is it going to wear a muzzle 24/7? So you start looking at the limitations. So I think that behavioral euthanasia is a real thing that we have to look at. But we know that BSL doesn't work. Breed-specific legislation, breed bans do not work. They're usually instigated by fear. And we know that fear is not a good determining factor, right? We know that. We know that only thoughtful consideration and reasonable risks are what need to be instituted. So when we look at that, and from my own personal experience, and I mean, I've worked with everything from pit bulls, Rottweilers. I've worked with Russian Ovcharkas, which are some of the most aggressive breeds by design. And I personally haven't ever been bit.
So interesting to hear from Barbara Lloyd, who has so much experience and says that with such confidence, like with such conviction, that no, breed bans don't work. That's from her personal experience working with many dogs over the years.
Well, Leisha, that also really echoes the sentiment of people in Regina at the community meeting. But I also know that people have expressed fear, and we've heard horrible stories of dog attacks. I really see how there are many similarities between the stories I shared from Regina and Saskatoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, people in your city are being given a say. Answering that question, is enough being done to keep both animals and people safe? And how can owners best handle their dogs if they have exhibited aggressive behavior?
Well, Barbara Lloyd says it's a pretty simple answer.
Fencing. Fencing is really the option. I mean, over my years as a behaviorist, I've worked with quite a few people that have had aggressive dogs that were people aggressive or dog aggressive or both. And it doesn't mean that they're not loving with their families, and it doesn't mean that they need a death sentence. It just means that they need to be contained very specifically. I have dogs. I live by a school. Our gates are padlocked. And I know a lot of other dog people that padlock their gates. We don't leave anything out to chance. When our garage is connected to our backyard, and when we leave and close the big garage door, we wait until that garage door is closed. We don't drive away until that big garage door is closed. We know that our gates are padlocked. We know that if somebody does get in there, it's because they climbed a fence.
Fencing. Interesting. I was driving down 20th Street yesterday, and there was a large dog barking, and he was behind a fence, but that fence wasn't very large, so the height of the fence clearly important too. And Aaliyah, I think we know that most pet owners, they really do care about the well-being of their animals. And it's also clear that people have been hurt, and they're living with some fear in both cities.
Exactly, and they also care about how this Regina bylaw could be drafted. So this will be a story we continue to follow for a while.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. Aaliyah, thank you.
Thank you, Leisha.
If you have thoughts on this story, don't hesitate to email us at thisisk@cbc.ca. Also, thanks to our colleagues Sam McCaig, Nicole Huck, who helped with this episode, and Alio Marco Omene. I'm Leisha Grabinski. Don't forget to hit follow. That way you'll know whenever we drop a new episode. Talk again soon.